Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what the main cause was to the way that I am. I thought it might have been the movie Beetlejuice, to be honest. I think
Drop Dead Fred had a large influence on me.
No, do you know what? I'd never watched Drop Dead Fred.
Me.
Oh,
as a child. Yeah.
What you mean because of Rick Mayall?
Yeah, I think that was a big thing.
I'm Drop Dead Fred.
What was the mother's name?
Worst.
He called the mother something.
I can't remember.
I can't remember.
This is like just brought back a memory I forgot I even had.
But that's
the fact that we're American and we were watching that's even odder to me because Rick Mayall wasn't a big deal in America. We loved that movie.
Amazing.
But did the Americans accept the over the top like?
Yeah, but it must have been so British English.
Yeah, I mean
humor,
Monty Python was huge. In America.
Monty Python was huge everywhere.
Yeah.
Fair.
I'm sure
I'm still torn about like who my favorite character is of Rick Mayall because I think Lord Flashheart is still one of the most classic.
Oh, I mean,
what's that
characters.
Blackadder.
Oh, from Blackadder.
Lord Flashheart. Flash by name, Flash by nature.
Yeah, but the young ones.
What?
But the young ones.
Oh yeah, no.
He's Rick on the young ones.
Nah, Bottom.
Hands
surely.
up, who likes me?
I've never watched all of Bottom, to be honest. I should, because it's the other guy from the young ones, right?
Yeah, Adrian
like-
Edmondson. Edmondson?
Adrian Edmondson.
I think I was probably the only person in my high school that watched the young ones.
Just laugh.
Okay.
Do a laugh.
Hands up, who likes me? Why don't you like me? Because you're a complete bastard.
Can you kill yourself with laxatives? I don't know. But
Hey,
I'm
guess what?
Find out.
What?
We're rolling.
We're rolling!
Living that Yunk Life, baby.
Pod, it's that Yunk Life pod. It's that Yunk Life pod. That Yunk Life pod. That Yunk Life pod. That Yunk Life pod. Living that Yunk Life, baby.
Hey, welcome to the Yunk Life episode, God knows whatever, but it doesn't really matter because we are live. Technically not, but we're live from
Cleveland Street?
Yes, there we go. That's where we are.
Where we are all the time.
Yeah, we are here at Cleveland Street. And if you and for all the peepers out there, hi. If you haven't guessed by now, I am dressed as a giant corn. Not a big yellow turd wrapped in a leaf, but a giant corn. Yes, I am turd by name, turd by nature.
Today we're welcoming our friend Chris.
Hello.
Who is in fact a pickle.
If you couldn't already tell.
Yeah, show us the pickle, dude. Show the pickle.
Can I really do it with like the ears out? Does that work?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, now you can hear better.
And
still
Because if I put the hood up, I can't hear anything.
just
So we're
to
kind of
hold it
like
together. I'm
head
rocking
down.
a shirt with Chris dressed as corn. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
representing both of you.
Chris, who made this t-shirt for you?
This was my friend Kelly, and we do a day every year where we celebrate National Corn on the Cob Day
Of course.
Awesome.
because why not? And I dressed up as a corn. It was hilarious, obviously. And she went and got a picture of me from the internet and printed it as a shirt
well
with
done.
my face as corn all over it. So thank
Thank
you, Kelly.
goodness she did. Thank you, Kelly.
Very good friend.
No, that is friendship. Do you remember when you made me that? Was it Straight Out of Camden? Was that you that made me that t-shirt?
No.
We were going to Philadelphia, and the first time I was going there with Jess and Sam, and I bought a t-shirt that said Straight Out of Camden because I thought, yes, I live and work in Camden. I might as well be a Camden Knight with a K. And I went in there and just went, Jess, what do you think about me wearing this Straight Out of Camden t-shirt? And you went, no.
Well,
Because-
Camden has a very different meaning to people from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Camden's the city right across the river, and I think it was murder capital of America for
Okay.
quite some time. So rocking a Straight Out of Camden shirt might not be the best idea in Philadelphia.
Or like he came across as just the scariest motherfucker on earth because he was just like, yeah, straight out of
Yeah,
Camden.
because you see me walking down Broad Street and everyone's just like, whoa, cross the road. That guy looks scary with his frown and his
And your
his
English accent.
like, chipped beard. He's like, what, mate?
At
Yeah.
one
Can you
point,
tell me where the nearest bar is?
a crazy guy jumped on the New Jersey Transit that myself and my husband and Gaz were on, and I heard both of them inhale like that they were going to speak to this man, and I just put my hand over both their mouths like neither of those accents are coming out. Not on New Jersey Transit. That was near Camden, by the way.
I think Sam probably would have got away with it because he's got quite a nice
He's got a
accent.
posher.
He's like, hello, no, it was not me. Whereas I'm like, just going, nah, it wasn't me, mate. What you on about you? Get off the train. Which I thought he was going to jump off at some point.
So, guys, you're talking about being an Englishman in
Yes.
the U.S.
Yes.
and maybe being a bit feared because of your Straight Out of Camden shirt.
Yeah.
But when you think of the U.S., what booze do you think of first?
Everything. No,
There's got to
whiskey.
be one. Thing.
Well, definitely visiting the dive bars. I definitely think of whiskey, which is what we're talking about today.
Exactly. It's
Excellent.
the most American of booze, I'd have to say.
Absolutely.
And which is why we have Chris here. So, Chris, over to you, brother. Tell us about yourself. What do you do? Where are you from? Star sign.
Where
all
am I
that kind
from?
of
Oh,
stuff.
I'm from just outside London, a little place called Aylesbury, which no one's ever heard of.
I've heard of it, but I'm a
Oh,
nerd.
there we go.
Ale spell L as in like
Aylesbury. It's very famous for its ducks.
Ducks.
Aylesbury ducks. Yeah.
Like quack ducks.
Yeah.
Someone with
If
that
you think
costume,
of
if you're
if you
on your
think
way there.
of Jemima Puddle duck, the classic white duck, orange bill, that is an Aylesbury duck.
Yeah, that's what they're actually called?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
There we go. Quite famous for Roald Dahl as well. He was from a place called Great Missenden, which was just outside. Aylesbury is quite often referenced in Matilda. It's where her mum goes to play bingo when she leaves her at home. And that's about as exciting as Aylesbury gets. So I just say London.
And
'cause
you
it's
came
easier.
from there as well.
Yes.
Well,
Oh,
that could also
too
explain why you
kind.
know so much about whiskey.
Well, yeah, because
You
I
gotta
needed
occupy
to
yourself
escape.
somehow,
Yeah.
right?
But I work for a distillery called Heaven Hill, and we are based in America, and we make loads of amazing American whiskies. So let's drink some.
That
Awesome.
you do.
Let's talk about.
We're gonna
them.
get to drinking.
We're gonna get to drinking.
God damn
We're
it,
gonna
just
get
wanna
to
drink,
drinking.
man.
I know.
The only reason why we do this podcast is so we can drink. Right?
Well, last time it was the food. You just gotta calm your ass. Oh, was I allowed to say that?
Yeah, no, swear all you want.
That wasn't a demerit. Let's talk about, since it is one of the biggest boozes in America, if you will.
Yeah.
It's often referenced in pop culture. I mean, the Doors have a song about it, which obviously is an old Irish song that's been redone. But I mean, the Citywide special includes it. Where else is whiskey big in pop culture?
Pop culture.
Yeah, I mean, I
Mad
feel like
Men.
whiskey is. What was that?
Mad Men.
Oh yeah, the Mad Men guys
Mad
always have
Men.
that snifter going on. So there's-
Westerns. They always drink whiskey in westerns.
yeah.
They're always
Sliding
like,
it down the
Yeah,
bar.
slide it down
I've
the
always
bar.
wanted to do that, but I never pull it off.
I think it's because you have to wax the hell out of the bar, right?
Yeah.
You've done that before, Chris. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Slid it down the bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow, you're cooler than us. Great.
Do you have to also measure just how drunk the person is to make sure they catch it, or does it just slide all the way past them and fall
Oh,
off?
I can do both. Yeah, lots of practice, lot of wax, like you say.
Earwax.
So yeah. No, I used to run a bar called the Lexington, and we had this massive like mahogany bar, and yeah, we had a lot of practice of trying to slide. But there are a lot of ones where it just slides off and goes straight on the floor, or you go to do it and they've turned to talk to their mate, and it just goes whizzing straight past all the way
You're
down
either
the
like
end and
super
stuff
cool
like that.
or
Yeah,
complete failure.
yeah.
There's
It's like a
nothing in the
one.
middle
It's
of
like a
that.
1 in 20 chance that you actually pull it off. But then when you do, you're like, fuck, that was cool.
At least it's
Let's do
not
it
your
again.
fault then as well. I think.
I think we'd get away with it here just because we're such idiots anyway. They would love it if we just slid a drink right past
Oh,
them.
yeah, or just walk around, just pouring it into their mouth straight from the bottle.
You know, that's actually illegal in your alcohol license.
Is it
In
really?
the UK.
Yeah.
I
It
learned
specifically says you cannot do a dentist chair, which is what that is referred to.
Fuck right off.
It's
That's
a-
what it's called.
It's a real thing,
A
yeah.
dentist chair.
When you take
Dentist
your,
chair is when you're like, it's the thing Gaza did. And then he did the celebration for it at Euro 96 when they all
Oh.
poured the water in his mouth. Because you used to sit in a chair and they'd like pour shots in your mouth and slap you about.
Basically
and slap you
waterboarding.
about. I don't know. Maybe that's why you're
Yeah.
not allowed to do it. It had nothing to do with the
So it's-
dentist chair part.
Right, so it's basically waterboarding, but more
But
fun.
with
For
booze.
fun, yeah.
For fun, yes.
And
So not-
consensual.
So not only are you just drowning in booze and like potentially just like trying to get like not release any important information, you're getting really drunk at the same time.
Also, for our American listeners, Euro 96 is a football competition that you would call soccer. by
Yes.
I was going to say, for the Americans, that's a soccer competition.
Yeah, well.
So
there
what was
you
the
go.
first whiskey you ever drank?
I honestly cannot remember, but it was probably something like. It was probably. In fact, I remember a time where I would drink it. Oh God, I'm gonna say it. It was Jack Daniels.
Mine was
And
Jack
what?
Daniels.
Jack Daniels. Everyone
That's
starts
fine,
off with
admit
Jack
it.
Daniels, right?
Absolutely.
It's sort of starting
You?
off.
Do you remember your first whiskey?
I can only assume it was Jack Daniels.
It had to be, right?
It would. I
It's
can't
the only
think of
thing we
anything
could
else
pull
it
off
would have
back
been.
then,
Yeah.
and probably would have heard of at that
Yeah.
point, you know?
Yeah,
Again,
I
you're
mean,
talking about culture. Of course, that's huge on culture. Like all 80s rock and roll music was all fueled by whiskey and
Yeah, you always see the Jack Daniels
Cocaine,
guitar
obviously, as well, but, you know.
signs.
Michael
Yeah.
Anthony of Van Halen had the Jack Daniels
Yeah.
shaped bass.
So basically, drinking Jack Daniels was the key to writing great music and getting signed
Well,
to like a record label.
I guess it helped.
Have
Yeah.
you ever snorted whiskey before?
Why do you ask me this on every episode? No, I've never snorted
fuck?
anything.
I will let you guys answer first before I answer.
I just did.
I
said no.
Oh, okay. Chris, how about you? Have you
I
ever
don't
snorted?
think I have. I've snorted salt before. Because there was, you used to do the different version of the tequila slammer where you
yes,
like,
we know all about it.
what was it? You snort the salt
He
and put
did
the
an angry-
lime in
an
your eye
angry
or
pirate,
something
right?
or whatever it is.
The
Yeah,
angry
I've done that
pirate is
before.
the same, but you also get kicked in the
The
shin.
shin, yeah. So then you're on one
yeah.
leg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
One
maybe
eye, one leg.
maybe later on I'll snort some whiskey on camera.
There we
How
go.
about
Please
that?
do.
Yeah.
Oh, please don't.
And I'll describe, and for all the people that aren't watching and just listening to our wonderful, beautiful, warmed up voices, I will describe what's going on to my actual head, face, and all the other things going on in my body
None of us have signed off on this snorting whiskey thing, just so you know.
Well, sign here.
I imagine whatever noises come out of you, it will be immediately obvious that is the exact sound of what snorting whiskey sounds.
I've not even belched yet. I usually start off every one of these episodes with a belch. But there you go.
So can I chime in on my first whiskey, actually?
No.
Yeah, please
So
do.
Jack Daniels, sorry, Jack Daniels was actually one of the first whiskeys I had. However, what I really do remember, and this is apropos because Chris is on here today, my old man had one of those old ceramic jugs
Yeah.
that have the blue painting on them.
Like,
and it was a Henry McKenna whiskey that came in the half gallon
it had
in the
to
US. And once that was emptied, it had like a cork in the top of it. And we kept all of our coins in there for years. So fast forward many, many years later, I'm having this memory, maybe after having a few whiskeys.
happen.
And I guarantee it was Henry McKenna, but it reminded me of this. So I got on Amazon and I actually ordered it wasn't Amazon, I'm sorry. It was another, seller, individual seller. And I bought one of those white half-gallon jugs.
I just picture Yosemite Sam every time.
So
you say
when it arrived, here's the cool thing. Like it brought tears to my eyes because it brought back this memory, right?
Oh,
Of
that's nice.
pouring coins out of this as we were kids after probably dad let us sample it, my brother and I. But inside of this thing, I heard something shaking around when I purchased it. It turned out it was a pack with about 4 Camel cigarettes inside of it.
In the jug?
In the jug. So my thought was someone owned this jug, had told their partner they had quit smoking,
Yeah.
and were hiding their cigarettes in
Amazing.
there.
That's great.
But it also just happened that my dad smoked Camel cigarettes growing up. So it was kind of an extra bonus for
that's
that,
really cool.
I don't know, 30 quid or so I
That's
bought
like the
that Henry
strongest
McKenna
cigarette.
jug.
Can you imagine smoking a cigarette that's just been soaked in like Jack Daniels
Well, it wasn't
whiskey?
soaked, it was
Yeah, but
It
dry
was an
in there.
empty.
Jug.
It was an empty jug.
Well, cast your minds to a multiverse where someone
Yeah, there we
finds a
go.
whiskey
Gaz
laced in
vision.
Jack Daniels. Yeah.
But funnily
Okay.
enough, Henry McKenna is one of our whiskies.
I
There we go.
might have known that, Chris.
There we go.
So you want to tell us a bit about how whiskey became the American drink?
Absolutely. It all starts at the start of America.
Okay.
Literally, like everything that has ever happened in American history is actually really linked to whiskey at any one point, right?
All right.
And it's so we're very much talking about what we think of like modern day America.
Right.
So we're talking like the original 13 colonies onwards, British rule until they turn around and kick the British out. Understandably so. I'd do the same.
Oh,
Um,
I wonder why.
But you had a lot of particularly Scotch and Irish settlers coming over to New York, around that region, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Boston, that kind of area, right? And they were skilled in making whiskey back home. But as a very easy way to make friends in a new country is if you start making whiskey,
Yeah, I guess so.
right? And
Or
a
just
lot of
drinking it from
people
random
would
people.
bring over tiny little distillation kits with them because, you're a farmer, you're a timber merchant, lumberjack, whatever the word is, right? People did lots of different things at the time, right? There we go. And, you can get fairly simple portable distilling kits, right? And you'd come over, grow some grain, make beer, distill it. You've got whiskey.
And
right?
friends.
Quite whiskey and friends, right? And something to do, right? Because you didn't have Netflix to watch Outlander at the
Or
time.
mobile
But
phones, yeah.
and in the kind of Northeast, well, in America in general, actually. So when you're making Scotch, you tend to be using, or Irish whiskey, you tend to be using barley, right? But obviously the climate's different, conditions are different, soil's different, all those kind of different things, right? So growing barley wasn't as easy. So particularly around the Philadelphia region, Canada, you'd get rye growing.
Okay.
So you'd make rye whiskey, like this delicious one we're going to try at some point today.
Yes, one of my favorites.
But as people started to move south, move west into what eventually becomes Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, that kind of middle part of America, rye doesn't grow very well. Wheat doesn't grow. Wheat grows okay, but corn was always the grain that existed there. Been there for a very long
Is
time.
that the Corn Belt stuff? Can you back me up on that? Is that called the Corn Belt?
It would make sense.
Corn Belt's going to be Iowa, Nebraska, and
So that's a bit
little
further,
further. But grains definitely grow there very well, especially.
I mean,
by
literally
those areas.
all across the entire world, that kind of bit where New York, England, Russia is, and then similarly below the equator, it's where grass grows.
Right.
Temperate regions, right? So rye is basically a type of grass, so it grows well there. As you move further south, hotter, drier, those kind of things, corn grows better, right?
Gotcha.
And since about 1600 BC,
Mhm.
since people figured out how to distill alcohol, if you can make alcohol out of it, you will do. Because why not, right? So people start using corn instead.
Can you imagine the first person? They probably thought it was magic. Like they probably thought
Oh,
they
yeah.
just drank a potion.
But
all
there's
of a sudden
the-
they feel different after drinking the corn water.
Like, don't quote me on this. I think it's like the Shah dynasty in China or something. They've got actual like fossilized remains of basically like
People there like
a whiskey, yeah.
In a
Yeah, there's
dentist
like
chair.
a carving on a wall of the first ever dentist's chair. Yeah.
And it's gas, ironically.
Yeah.
oh, there's my bones.
And yeah, so if you can make booze out of it, you will. So they started using corn,
Okay.
and then it basically creates a new style of whiskey, a new type of product, and it's really sweet, really delicious. And corn grows really quickly. You've got a really high yield from it. All these kind of boring farmy kind of things, but people started making corn whiskey in this region, and that is like the genesis of all American whiskey.
So where does the E versus the lack of E in whiskey come from? Can you tell me that?
It's essentially a split between Scotland and Ireland.
Oh, okay.
And you tend to find Scotch, Japanese, Canadian
Mhm.
will not have the E,
Okay, but
it's
most American
KY.
does.
whereas Irish has always had the E in it.
Mhm.
So particularly in this period where people are moving to that region, you did have a lot of Irish,
Okay.
a lot of pioneers. He was quite a lot later, but Henry McKenna was Irish.
Okay.
Right, he was Irish settler and stuff like that, and it was just there a lot of the kind of techniques and everything that was used in these early days of making whiskey in America. It was quite Irish prominent,
Okay.
so the E stuck. So it tends to be Ireland and America uses an E,
hmm
and everywhere else does not.
Gotcha.
How long does it take to actually make, like, so back in the day, what's the lifespan of like growing the grain, so then doing all the distilling to actually
So
have the
basically, from
finished
the second you
product?
get off the boat, how long is it before you can make friends?
How long before you
Okay.
get drunk, basically, without paying for it?
If you could get the grain already relatively quickly, but one of the reasons that corn becomes so synonymous and stuff as well is corn grows really, really quickly. So particularly as well, a lot of the English and French settlers, everyone loved brandy. They loved cider. But to grow apple, I always call them cider trees. It's not cider until you make it. They're apple trees. I'm not an alcoholic.
Also, in case our
Neither are
English,
we.
Apple trees.
if our English listeners don't know, cider in America is non-alcoholic.
Who what?
Is it?
I grew up on an apple farm. We had a cider house, and that just was pressed apples as opposed to cooked apples.
The
with
apple
other
juice.
Could be.
Wait,
yes.
so if I went into a bar in
In
America,
order
and
to,
I
I
wanted
mean,
a cider,
now it's gotten a bit more prominent, but
Yeah.
when I moved away 13 years ago, it was rare to find it, and it was only ever Magners.
so you would be laughed out of the bar, basically. If you
It was
asked for
actually
cider.
funnier because I worked at the time for a historic restaurant where we served a drink that had apple cider in it. And English people would get so pissed off when they realized that it wasn't alcoholic, that it was just apple juice they'd ordered.
They're like 10 glasses in, and they're just going, why am I not rolling around on the floor covered in my own puke yet? Smelling of apples.
But yeah, when I was growing up, we thought of cider as just flat juice.
Yeah, well, cloudy cider is not very attractive. I remember drinking a cloudy cider once, which just tasted like gym shorts.
Was it Old Rosie?
It probably was.
Old Rosie-
Sorry, old Rosie, if you're listening, you're probably not, but who cares?
I used to drink Old Rosie like it was going out of style until I walked into the keg room one time and a box had broken and it had fermented into like vinegar, and I've
Amazing.
never unsmelled that. So now I can't drink Old Rosie anymore.
That's probably why I don't like vinegar. You just put old Rosie on your chips. Vinegar.
That might be good.
No, it's terrible.
Sorry.
Anyway, carry on,
Right.
Chris. It's all about you,
But
not
like,
us.
growing apple trees takes a very long time.
Yeah.
Like 8 years, right? You can grow corn if you really want to ramp it up, in about 6 weeks. It grows super
that's not
quick,
too
right?
bad.
It does take longer than that normally, right? But you get your grain.
Yep.
It's quite the corn that you make whiskey from is a lot drier than you think of like a corn on the cob. Corn on the cob is very, very like juicy and sweet, right?
Yeah.
It looks exactly the same, but it's more, you know, you get those like little like bar snacks corn, the kind of like hard stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's a bit more like that. So you just grind it up in essentially a big coffee grinder, add water, add yeast, and you've got your mash, right? You let that ferment and you've got a corn beer. That takes about anywhere in the region of a couple of days.
Oh, quickly.
Right.
Oh shit, really?
Or to up to like a week or so. Or ours varies a little bit. I think ours are about 4 days now, but they're done on huge vats, like 160,000 litre vats, just like fermenting and bubbling away.
Nice.
You then put that through your still, and when you're stilling, your stilling process is like it's done in the day, and you've got whiskey coming out the other end. But you are getting unaged, clear corn liquor, right? But people would have just drunk that
Moonshine.
straight away because you've got it now.
I just wanted to say
Yeah.
moonshine.
Yeah, moonshine,
The
100%.
ones where you drink the jugs like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Stubb was talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I was picturing. Like
Yes.
moonshine
Yeah.
in a jug.
Yeah, in a jar, in a mason jar.
Yeah.
And they're all like Mississippi pie flavored and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that would have been what you'd have done like straight away.
Wasn't
As
there a
soon as
story
knew
that you
something.
told me that people would like take the jars into like their empty jugs or whatever, like to the whiskey distillery and just like, can you fill this up for me, please?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you just bought barrels of whiskey off people. And in the saloons that you'd go to, they'd just have like dozens of barrels of different stuff. So like cognac, different kinds of whiskey. And yeah, you just walk in with this and be like, yes.
Not even say anything, just like hold it out in front of us, just
Yes,
like,
please.
still, yeah. I'm so wasted right now. I've lost the ability to speak English.
You can still, they do that in Philadelphia, but with beer. They call it a growler. You buy the growler and then, I'll get there one second. You buy the growler and then you go into the brewery or the bar and they'll fill it up for you. So in England, they started doing this during COVID.
Yeah.
And I and my English husband go to a bar and he goes, here you go. Here's the waiter. Order your growler. And they make eye contact and start laughing. I'm like, why is that funny? What are you laughing at? Turns out a growler in this country is something very different. You want to tell them what it is, Gaz? Okay, I'll do it. It's an angry vagina, according to my husband.
Yes.
But he let me say it to the server. Like, I'm your wife. Why do you want me calling
Well,
something a growler?
well, the first time I heard the term growler was when I was watching Bo Selector, and it was, like, can you see my growler? But anyway, so
All right.
we'll learn something new. There you go, America. Take that one.
Yeah, don't call it a growler when you come in, unless you want to get laughed
Hey,
at.
we're here combining cultures, right?
Yes, exactly. It's
There
a
we go.
cultural exchange.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I'll take that, put it in my back pocket.
Can we try some of your corn whiskey?
Yeah, if you want to start on the corn whiskey, absolutely.
Well, you were talking about the corn.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
I'm sitting next to a piece of corn.
yeah.
Wearing corn.
Yeah, we're actually wearing like we're doing this
Feels
because
like
of mellow corn.
Pointing in the corn direction here.
No, I remember I've had this before. Have you had this before, Jess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm actually not sure why I just volunteered.
Apart from 20 minutes ago when we did a shot before we came on air, because we got to warm up, right? Leave us alone. You got a problem?
Nobody's judging.
Oddly, we didn't do a shot before on air because Chris just opened this bottle brand new right now.
True. Now, right. So I didn't have quite an eclectic taste of whiskey before I met Chris, right?
The end is, and I still don't.
No, I do now, and most of my nights are.
I know you know your whiskey.
Yes. Well, not as well as him.
No,
I mean, I have been to a few of your like evenings where you do a big. I've been to quite a few, and I still don't remember most of it. But like, it's because you're giving out free whiskey, dude. You know what I mean? And I'm just thinking of all these weird scenarios.
There are quite a few trainings where somebody's done a couple of them. There, like, I learned something new this time. It's like, no, you just like remember
Well,
a little more this
the
time.
last one you did for us before we opened Kensington, I was pretty drunk,
I know.
and you did it in like half an hour. So that's a lot of whiskey in half an hour. But anyway, the Mellocorn. Can I just tell you my experience with this first?
Absolutely.
do.
Carry on. So this, when you showed me the bottle, like the bottle put me off when I first saw it, and the color of it. So immediately I was just like going, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this. But then you gave me a shot, but then you made me a cocktail using this, and it changed my life forever.
What was the cocktail?
It
I
was
can't remember what it was.
the popcorn one.
Oh, the cinema highball.
The cinema highball.
Yeah,
I
so
want that.
Oh my God,
Mellocorn,
it's so
popcorn,
good.
syrup, and Coke.
All right, next time we hang out, you're bringing
Delicious.
all that
Hell
stuff,
yeah.
okay?
Absolutely.
I want that. in
So
my life.
so ever since that day, I've not stopped raving on about
Yeah.
Mellocorn.
You've been a convert.
I'm a convert. Look at me, I'm turning into a giant
That's
corn.
it, I quit. I'm out of here. That's this kind of podcast. I'm out of here.
Yeah, the funny thing is, Gaz actually just turned up in this today. He forgot we were filming the podcast. You
Like-
just wear this all the time.
Just like
yeah,
you and
same.
your pickle. You just
Yeah.
randomly
Also,
roll
for
your
all
pickle
of
on
the-
subway.
For all of the listeners today, it is what, 28 degrees outside today?
Right, so what would that be in America? You double it now.
90-ish.
It's
Over-
hot. It's hot.
It's
High
hot.
90s and humid, more so than it gets here in London most days.
Yeah, it's very hot. Like I have
This
to...
is indeed the hottest day of the year already.
In fact, we're losing the power suit and going for straight Hawaiian.
Yeah!
we
Look
go.
at that.
Now
Look
I'm really
at that
rocking the
pretty
corn.
face on that t-shirt there.
Also, being England, that's like as hot as it ever gets as well. So,
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah,
Chris,
it's
tell us a
terrible
little
hate.
bit about Mellow Corn specifically here. This
So
is
it's
not
actually-
a bourbon whiskey, right?
No, so it's actually
It's
quite
a
good
corn
that we
whiskey?
started on this one based on what we were just talking about. Because this is, so they started making that corn whiskey, right? Clear, drinking it straight away, mason jars, all that kind of stuff, right? But then people started actually using barrels, right? And this is really the start of when barreling as a way to add flavor actually really becomes its own thing. And it's very kind of unique to America as well, right? Because 100% in Europe, Scotland and everything like that, people were aging whiskey in wood, right?
Right.
It's part of what whiskey is, right? To be a whiskey, it has to be aged in a wooden container. That is basically a rule in every single country of wherever you make whiskeys, it's going to be aged in wood. It's where you're getting your color from, flavor, all that kind of stuff, right? But what was unique about America at this point is it is a rapidly, massively growing nation, right? So you needed to move stuff. So they needed to be of a certain size that is big enough that you can roll them around without it being too heavy. You can put them on boats, so on and so forth. But these barrels are used for everything, right? Fish, pickles, jam, fruit, stewed
Right.
meat, whatever, right? And anything, like, because they're
bodies.
very, yeah.
Maybe.
Gunpowder, tobacco, kind of everything, right? Because they're big, they're strong, you can roll them, you can move them, right? But because those barrels were used for everything, they're going to taste like what's been in it before, or fragrances or residues and stuff like that. So people started burning the inside of the barrels to kind of make them neutral again, so that when you put your whiskey in it, it wasn't going to taste like what it tasted of before. It was hopefully going to be like
So
a
did it
newish
then take
barrel
on
again.
the taste of the smoke?
A
when
little
they would
bit.
burn it?
A little bit. So like when we try this one later, some people get a little bit of smoke on that.
Okay.
I don't get it. Maybe my palate's not sophisticated enough
Have
to
you
pick
ever
up
heard of the
smoke. But,
tapping the admiral?
the pub.
Well, the term
Oh
tapping the
no,
admiral.
I literally thought the
you meant
same
the
thing.
pub.
It was like,
It is-
oh, the pub.
there
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
many-
straight out of Camden.
Yeah, many pubs call that, one being in Camden. But tapping the admiral comes from when you were saying put anything in barrels.
Yeah.
When Horatio Nelson was killed, the legend is that they put him in a barrel of rum. And on the trip home, some of the sailors wanted to drink anyway, so they tapped the
No
admiral.
way.
So that's where tapping the
drank
admiral comes
dead
from.
Nice.
Body juice rum.
Well, there's that famous bar is it in Iceland that's got the whiskey with the toe in it, and it's a
Yes.
real
Yeah.
toe.
The f-
A real
And then
toe?
and then I think somebody ate the toe,
no!
and somebody else donated another toe.
We gotta go.
Well, that's
Podcast all over.
this is
We're
classic
finding this
getting
toe.
drunk on whiskey behavior.
Exactly.
So you take the toe, huh? Fine, I got two. I'll just give you one of mine.
Take mine,
You
man.
take mine. It's good. I just you probably can't walk properly now.
You're probably right.
It would be really fun
Worth
to.
it.
Yeah. I wonder what kind of socks he wears now that he's only got one big toe.
I
I
think
would
they
guess the
I
same
think they
ones.
donated it post
Mortem.
mortem.
Oh,
Good.
some
Was gonna
guy
say
just
pus-
didn't come in and was just like, missing the toe, huh? Here's mine.
Yeah, I don't think they just got like a bar knife, and he was just like, "I'll do it."
I think that's Iceland, man. Maybe.
Yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
badasses out there.
Yeah. Well, they're pretty
All right, let's
badass.
try this corn whiskey, shall we?
Right, okay.
I think we may be way ahead of you, to be honest with you.
Do we is there like a
cheers, cheers,
is there
cheers.
like, we
Oh,
smell it first.
Smells
yes.
like regret.
We can do if you want.
Smells like
I
regret.
should not have smelled it. All right.
Ooh,
I know you guys are going to savor this. I'm not. I'm
should we
just
talk
gonna
about
go
what we
for it.
can smell?
Yeah, sure. But I'll do that for you.
Gaz, is it
smell-
corn?
Nodes. I smell nodes of Mellocorn whiskey.
All right, fuck this. I'm doing the shot.
Okay.
Oh, you
It's
guys are going
cold,
straight
it tastes
down.
like fire.
Oh wait, you were.
I'm savouring, yeah.
gonna cry for the rest of this episode.
Oh no, the next two are gonna be, I'll say maybe a little.
The next
I
one's gonna make
really-
me angry, and then the third one's gonna make me fall in love with everybody.
Oh, that's amazing. I
So,
love
Chris, this is your favorite whiskey out of the lot,
I think so, yeah.
right?
You can't say it, but underneath his pickle, he is rocking an American football jersey that says Melicorn.
Melicorn.
it. Indeed.
Pretty dope, actually. I kind of want one.
I just
but
wanted to be the pickle today,
kind of
so
too
that you
close
could
to
be
the
the corn.
Chiefs colors for me. I gotta be honest.
Oh,
A little bit too
damn.
close. You got the pickle on, so
I
you're
was
Shame.
walking down the street
Shame.
the other day, and a guy, full Chiefs kit wanker, was walking down the road, and he came up to me, and I was like, I want to say something. Then as I went past, he was just like, I really like your beard, and I was like, oh, you
Aw,
can't
you
say
were
anything
nice to
mean
me.
back now. I really wanted to just be like, go there.
You should've. That's how you should answer. Go birds. Okay, so let's move on a little bit to bourbon specifically, because that is
Yep.
what is in the Citywide special, which is the name of the episode, guys.
Well, yeah, because this kind of takes us back to that origin when they start using reused barrels for the first time. They basically work, they figure out at that point, that makes it sweeter, makes it that nice nuttiness. You've got that kind of buttery toast thing. That's why I love Melicorn. It's quite simple, but
So paired beautifully with buttered toast.
Yeah.
In the morning.
breakfast.
If your morning is 5 p.m. in the afternoon.
Breakfast for dinner.
I love breakfast.
Everyone's favourite
for
meal.
dinner. I love that.
Cool, sweet. I'm going to
So-
try that next time.
So the difference with corn whiskey is it'll always go in a used barrel
Okay.
that's been charred on the inside. And that's where you're getting that colour, that flavour from. Because as they moved the whiskey around in the barrels, it took on that flavour of that barrel, changed the colour, made it richer, sweeter, all those kind of things, right? So they were like, that's a good idea. We should do that all the time. Let's get those brand new barrels, char them every time, and put our corn whiskey in it. And that's where you start getting on to bourbon,
Okay.
that then becomes its own thing, its own. Because this is a corn whiskey, because it's gone in a used barrel. We're now talking a brand new barrel every single time.
Okay.
And that's what makes a bourbon.
Bourbon specifically.
Yeah. It has to have
Okay.
at least 51% corn in it. We're 78% on this because
Can I see the bottle? Can you pass me the bottle?
of the Melicorn, yeah?
Yes.
There we go. So bourbon is America's national drink.
That's why I said the Citywide special includes
Here, here.
it. So for those of you who don't know, if you go to any shitty bar in Philadelphia and say, I'll have a Citywide, you're going to get a can of a beer and a shot of bourbon of some kind. And the original one was from a place called Bob and Barbara's on South Street. And that was PBR, like we have in front of us here, and Jim Beam. So that's considered bourbon, yes?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I thought that the bourbon was important to the Philadelphia side of the culture.
No, absolutely.
Citywide special.
Yeah, and going back to what we were talking about at the very start, like when you think of America, I think of,
Yeah, it has to be whiskey.
I mean, PBR, MGD,
Yeah, that's
like-
the first beer I ever had in my life.
simple classic lagers, but you're having it with bourbon.
Well, they've also, when I last went home, they've kind of upgraded it. You can get different options. There's the industry one where you get a craft beer and a Fernet. And then there's the Mexican one where you get a Modelo and a tequila. So they've changed it quite a bit. But the original
Nice.
Citywide special was PBR.
Yeah,
and JB.
one of my favorite trash bars of all time is the Charleston
Okay.
in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And they just have like a whole thing of Boilermaker kind of combos,
Yeah.
but they throw in a slice of pizza as well.
Nice.
So for like $5, you get a beer, a bourbon, and a slice of pizza
There used
from
to
the
be a place
world's
that-
angriest person.
Oh,
Oh,
of course.
really?
Which is just adds to it.
Why
Oh
is
yeah,
he so angry?
because they're just in a roasting hot kitchen and just throwing slices
Handing
of
out free
pizza out
pizza.
to
Oh,
them.
it's loads
Yeah,
of
hat.
sweat.
It's
It's
just
like extra
But
sweat
they do
and
the
oils
same
in
thing.
that
So for like
slice.
$6, you can like upgrade it to like a Modelo.
Yeah, upgrade
And
it.
like,
There was a place in Williamsburg that used to, every beer you ordered, you got a whole pizza.
wow.
Like during happy
That's
hour or
amazing.
something. But yeah.
This might
literally,
even be the Charleston.
every
It was like
beer you
a
ordered,
like
you got a
this kind
full
of size pizza.
Yeah, maybe it's the same place.
So as I move on camera here to put my empty glass on the table to move on for tasting,
Yes.
I'll remind everyone that
Is that a hint that you want some more whiskey?
well, it is that, but remind everyone, people coming in and out of frame, we are at a working bar when we're recording these. So
Yes, as it
sometimes
should
we have
be.
to get some
Yes.
stock out of
There are
out of
people
so-
actually in this bar. People like to come to
Living
this bar.
the Yunk Life.
Yes, they like to come to this bar and, drink whiskey like what we are doing right now.
So I think this whiskey is going to be the one that I can handle the best. I think I started with bourbon, and I like to move forward with bourbon.
What is this, Elijah Craig?
Yes.
That, you haven't even drank it yet.
I know,
That
mate,
noise.
but I have so many good memories of drinking Elijah Craig.
I do like
With
Elijah
you,
Craig.
mate.
Out of
Mainly. That's a
We
lie.
do
You don't have
rope
any
Chris in.
memories of drinking with me.
No, I don't. I really don't. We'll get to those later, though.
Chris gets roped into any time we have a party here at Passyunk Avenue. He ends up doing one of our mobile bars at the tailgate party. So the three of us have ended up spending quite some
We've
time
done a
together.
lot together. We've done what? 2 Super Bowls, the Phillies,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Phillies here in London.
and then we did all like
We
the
did all-
tasting series we did at
Yeah,
the
we
start,
did-
where we did like a different whiskey
Yeah.
every week for like
Whole
6
month,
weeks or
every-
something
yeah,
like
it was
that.
like every Friday. down at
Oh
Passyunk
yeah,
Waterloo.
Waterloo. Yeah,
That was a lot of fun. I was really bricking myself because
I think that was the first time I met you.
I
Yeah,
knew,
it would have been. Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew nothing about what was going on, and I had to, I was told to sort of like look after this new rep of ours or whatever.
And I've just
And-
started as well.
Yeah.
I'd only been doing the job for like 2 months or
Oh,
something.
perfect. So we all
Nice.
kind of
So,
went
yeah,
into
yeah.
this together. That's great. We grew together.
I still have that video of you smashing up that bag of
Ice with a hammer. Yeah.
like with like Thor. It was great.
All right, so tell us a bit about this Elijah Craig that we're about to sample.
So we're now very much talking about bourbon, and when it's a bourbon, it will always be that brand new charred oak barrel every single time, and that
and
is
this is the one that you said
so.
may have the smoke to it for that
It's
reason.
a little smoke if you pick it up.
Okay, just
Yeah,
curious.
I personally don't get it, but it's because you are then using a brand new charred oak barrel. So char doesn't bring an awful lot of flavor. It's
Okay.
actually, if you think of like filtering processes, you're using charcoal to filter, right?
Sure, yeah.
Because what was happening is they were charring the inside of the barrels to make them neutral again. But what actually happened is you caramelized all of the sugars and vanillins and lactones and all these wonderful flavors in
Just
that
use
wood.
So many scientific words.
Cellulose,
Yeah.
how many
It's pretty
cellulose?
cool. I
Don't
know,
ask
yeah.
me what they
Sport?
mean,
No,
but I
no,
know
they're
them to
all-
say
they're
them.
all
Yeah.
computing. My little dictionary in my head is going.
Yeah, me
like,
too. I had
remember
to go
this
through the
one, yeah.
files real quick in
Yeah.
my head.
Well, tannin is like oak flavor.
Right.
If you've ever had like a really like dark cup of tea and it leaves like the ring around it, that's tannin.
Yeah, how about that?
That like that dark like dry
Yes.
woody
yeah,
kind
Yeah.
of texture, right?
red wine, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, when
absolutely.
I've done, when I started in the world of wine after bartending for a while, and I explained it as, like when you were a kid and you would like, for whatever reason, like handle some wood that you found and then like eat a sandwich and you would taste that kind of puckery feeling inside of your face there. Is how
So
I
what I
explained it.
heard was he handled some wood.
And
Got a
then
puckery
licked my
feeling.
fingers.
Wow, good pick on that. Look, I didn't even pick up on that.
I'm hanging out with you.
Man,
too
I've
much.
not.
You're
been
still
watching
laughing
that.
at Growler.
It may
Yeah.
have been-
I've
or it
just
could have
never-
been the song we were listening to before we started.
I've really been dipping back on watching cartoons every Saturday.
Okay,
Right,
let's
no,
see.
no,
Where were we?
Vanillin, so hard to say. Vanillin is very obvious. It's the thing that it's the same shape as vanilla,
Okay,
and it binds to your tongue in the same way, and your brain goes, that tastes like vanilla.
but it's not vanilla.
No, it's
Interesting.
vanillin. I
Okay.
mean, vanillin is also the compound in vanilla that makes
Right,
it taste like vanilla, but there's also other things in vanilla. So it's like this whole
Gotcha.
flavor if you got like a vanilla pod and tried it, it's not just vanillin, it's like loads of other
Well,
things.
So is this heavy on
as well.
that? Is that what
Yes.
made you say it? Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
this is probably
so-
why it's my favorite because I really do enjoy the vanilla flavored stuff.
I used to love vanilla flavored everything. All right, here we go. Here's a story. that-
Yeah! Did you need a bed at
Put in
a
your
hotel
chair,
as
come
No,
well?
on.
actually, it wasn't me. But my mother was always like really cool about letting us hang out when we were younger, as long as no one puked. That was always the rule.
Right, okay.
So one time I had a group of girls over my house in high school, and I don't know if somebody hit a bong or something, and they puked. And the
Was
way
that somebody you?
no, it was not me. Thank you. I pride myself in never puking until the day after I've been all messed up.
Fair.
However, we covered the smell of the puke with Vanilla Fields perfume.
Amazing.
And in turn, I have never been able to smell vanilla the same way again.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like you've got quite
Sorry,
a long
Mom.
list of things that you
Sorry,
can't
Mom.
smell anymore.
Whiskey, for instance. So that'll be tomorrow. We'll add that to the list tomorrow.
Well, vanilla doesn't really make you puke, doesn't it? Whiskey. Did I say vanilla? I meant whiskey. How much have we had to drink
You meant
already?
vanilla into whiskey there.
Do you know what? I'm not kidding. I literally said vanilla, but what I heard in my own head was whiskey.
I like how long we stared at each other after you said
Yeah.
that. Like,
I kind
Which
of
of us is
realized
gonna
I
break
needed to
here?
correct myself.
here,
'Cause-
let's taste the
yeah,
vanillins.
let's taste the vanillins.
Okay,
Here's
cheers.
to here's to vanilla. I mean whiskey.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Cheers to the man
everybody.
off camera.
Subscribe, you bunch of bastards.
I'm definitely savouring this one.
Thank you for being kind and making them small shots.
I know what you mean about the smoothness of that. No, now that I know
Way
that,
smoother after the corn. 100%.
you could pour this in a tub of vanilla ice
Please
cream.
don't do
You
that boring
absolutely
thing
can.
over our expensive microphones ever again.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got double vision here.
But no, these are quite different in ages as well. Melicorn is 4 years old in a used barrel. So
Right.
it is going to be tougher.
Yeah.
Richer. It's what you would describe as like an immature flavor profile.
And then how old is Elijah?
And
Craig?
Elijah Craig, we're now talking 8 to 12 years old.
All right.
So, and it's a brand new barrel as well. So you're getting so much more sugar, vanilla, all those kind of wonderful flavors from that barrel, but also just that
So the
extra
longer,
aging. The more it
takes on
sits,
the
the
barrel
more,
flavor,
yes,
yes?
100%.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because it goes as the seasons change, it goes in and out of the wood.
Right.
So for an 8 to 12-year-old whiskey, that's going to be 16 to 24 times that it's gone in and out of that wood, rested differently as well, and picked up loads of those flavors. So vanillin is the classic one. That takes about 6 or 7 years to break down all of it from your barrel. So you may get a tiny, tiny hint of vanilla in there, but you're not really going to pick it up. Whereas something like this,
I
it's
just
such
got
a
fired.
prominent tasting note because it has
So
taken
then
that extra
move
time.
on to this
and
next one that you brought here with you, because I know this one
Absolutely.
is a Philadelphia whiskey, so I'm really anxious.
We're
to
still
talk about
drinking
it.
our whiskeys.
Yeah. Wait.
I
I have a
not mine, man.
unpopular opinion time. Okay.
Ooh.
All
Right.
All right.
Obviously, when you're younger, everybody just drank whiskey with Coke or
Yeah.
some sort of mixer.
Mhm.
Has that put a taint on how people should be drinking whiskey these days?
Taint.
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
Do you think it's like blasphemy
No.
as a professional
Absolutely
whiskey
not.
drinker? No.
I reckon to a certain extent, if you had some very, very incredibly wonderful, hard to find, rich, incredible whiskeys, then maybe it'd be like, do you really want to be mixing that with Coke, or do you want to just try it on its own? But also, fuck it. Do I want to have, if somebody gave me like, there's an amazing bar in Louisville called Meta.
Mhm.
And there's this whiskey called Pappy Van Winkle,
Yep,
which
we
is
have it.
very, very hard to get hold of,
We
very
do have
sought
it on site.
after because it's done on allocation and stuff like that. Very, very expensive whiskey once you get hold of some, if you manage to sell it on the secondary market and all this kind of stuff. And there's this bar called Meta, and they were like, if we ever get hold of Pappy, we're making Jello shots. They got it and they made Jello
Oh
shots.
my god.
Wow.
Wow.
They had people giving them death threats. They had
Oh my
people
God.
like review bombing them on the internet. They had people turning up, and they were like, "This," and they kind of doubled down. They were like, "Fuck it, this is funny. We're annoying like the right people." And they were like, "Do you know what? If we ever get it again, we're gonna do it again." They got it
Awesome.
again, and they made Jello shots
Here you go.
again.
There's another field trip. for
Whiskey
us.
Jello shots.
But they made it with
Wow.
like some of the finest whiskey in the world, right?
Nice.
But why wouldn't you?
No, fair enough.
I think, particularly with American whiskey, and why it ends up in dive bars, why you have it as citywide specials and stuff like that, is bourbon has always been like a blue collar drink.
Yeah.
For blue collar people, and quite often made by blue collar people.
Yeah.
As well. Like, yes, obviously some of the distilleries end up very, very big and make billions of dollars and stuff like that. But the owner of our distillery, last time she was in London, I took her to a bar around the corner and we sat and had shots.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's where the Citywide comes from. Like
Right.
working class people
And
want to be able to get drunk. Cheap.
There is really, it's really hard to find like snobbery about American whiskey in American whiskey because it's an everyday drink.
Right.
Like Americans, the reason, again, going back to that thing at the start of like, what do you think of when you think of American drinking or drinking culture? Like, it's a beer and a whiskey,
Mhm.
right? Americans drink whiskey like we drink beer, right?
100%. My husband knows that all too well these days.
Like we go to the pub.
Exactly.
You don't really have pubs in America. You have bars, but far, far more drinking in America is done at home, at tailgates, at barbecues, because, you know, y'all have gardens and space
Well, yeah.
and trucks and
Yeah, it's also best to be contained at somebody's garden because
Yeah.
you have to drive home
Yeah.
most of the
And you
time.
gotta drive
Whereas
everywhere
Yeah, and it
as
keeps
well,
all the
so-
drunk people in,
Yeah.
so they're
Yeah.
not outside, burning things or whatever.
but you know, we've done like the tailgate parties together and
Yeah.
stuff, but you go to a NFL game and you get there at midday.
Yep.
And you sit there all day and, you know, Barbara's doing the corn and Tim's doing the chicken and
And everybody's drinking whiskey.
And Chris-
Gaz is dressed as a
Chris-
corn.
Yeah, Chris is just pouring all the whiskeys.
So tell us about the Rittenhouse family.
Because
So-
there's always some bread grain at those as well for the buns.
Yeah.
And this
We're already making
is
our own.
actually a bread grain whiskey here.
There we go. So yeah, we're now very much talking about rye whiskey. So we kind of touched on it a bit at the start of like rye would have been the first whiskey that people were making in America, right? Because it was those settlers. I mean, again, we're talking loosely about the formation of the United States, right? But it starts at the Northeast, right? Even when it was the early Dutch settlers and it was New Amsterdam before New York and stuff like that. So that was where rye was. Similarly in Canada. I only learned very recently that basically Canada, and this is going to make you laugh because I'm going to say the word beaver.
The word wouldn't have made me laugh, but the way you said it, that definitely made me laugh.
It made me laugh.
Canada as a country literally exists because of the beaver trade.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the company, but there were so many outposts dealing with beaver fur that essentially they had to talk so much amongst each other that they were like, we need to make this a country so we've got like a government so we can actually have things in place. And this is very a loose history.
Well,
Do not quote me on the
I
exact thing of
similarly
Canada,
learned
but
the American dollar being a buck is because of the antler trade.
makes sense.
Trading fur and antlers from deer. That became, instead of a barter economy, it became a buck.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know nothing about history.
So tell us a little
Also,
bit about
actually,
Rittenhouse.
this is completely off topic, but it just reminded
keep
me
going.
to ask
Tell us.
you. Is I keep telling the story about. So another thing about bourbon is it has to be made in America.
Okay.
So the thing I always say in like my trainings or whatever, it can be Alaska, it can be Hawaii, it can be anywhere. And then we've asked the question, could it be made at a US embassy?
Ooh.
Because it's American soil. And I'm sure it was you that was telling me that there is a statue somewhere
Yeah.
that
the
is
Abe Lincoln.
claimed as American soil.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, let's go and make some
There's
whiskey
two,
on that.
actually. There's Abe Lincoln in Edinburgh, and there's George Washington in front of the National Gallery.
Okay.
And George Washington insisted that they take soil from Virginia and put it underneath his statue because he didn't want it to be on British ground.
So George Washington was a vampire, is what you're saying.
Sure, yeah.
Why-
He had to
wait,
take a
where
bit of
have you
his
heard that?
soil
He
with
had
him
those fake
everywhere he
teeth
goes.
anyway,
Yeah.
so he had to come
Why
up
have
with
you heard that he's
fangs.
a vampire?
Well, no,
Because
because
he brought the
vampires have to
soil
take
with
the
them.
piece of soil with them everywhere they go,
Whenever
so that they
travel,
can
bring soil.
sleep it
Do they really?
during the day.
Never heard that?
Cool. Well, I'm gonna start.
Anyway, tangent. What was the question again?
Rittenhouse. Tell me
There
about
we
the
go.
Rittenhouse
Oh,
family.
yeah.
So-
Philadelphia.
So up in that, so the whole reason, you were doing some of our whiskeys and stuff anyway, but the easiest way for us to come in and kind of talk to each other was to talk about Rittenhouse. So we're obviously a Kentucky-based company making all our whiskey in Kentucky, but originally Rittenhouse was from Philadelphia.
Yep.
So
There's even Rittenhouse Square. in
exactly.
Philadelphia.
So the beauty of diamonds is if you turn them sideways, they're a square.
Oh, look at that.
So that's the little Rittenhouse Square. Also,
Oh, I didn't know
you
that.
may know
That's cute.
this is something to do with Philadelphia as well, but I'm not sure what. It's not
Neither
quite
am
a
I.
fleur de lis, but it's
Let me have a
like
look.
It could
it's
be
very
like
like similar.
perhaps something that's on the City Hall building or something like that. I'm
But,
not 100%.
Rye was obviously very, very popular in these regions because that's where rye grew. So you made rye whiskey. And you kind of tend to get two different styles. You've got the kind of Pennsylvania style and the Kentucky style.
Okay.
And they tend to vary a little bit in kind of like how much corn, how much rye you've got, and so on and so forth. But we picked up this brand, moved it to Kentucky, but originally was from Philadelphia.
Same
and-
recipe and everything, I'm assuming. Or...
We actually changed the recipe a little bit.
Okay.
We made it cornier.
Obviously, if it's not Philly, that's definitely cornier.
Yeah, we're from Kentucky. We love corn. Hence why I have a corn outfit and why we brought that along today. You're mainly looking at me and you keep forgetting as you turn
I
around.
do.
You're
Every
just
time I
like,
turn
oh,
around,
yeah,
I'm
it's just
greeted
like-
by that.
But yeah, originally from Philadelphia. So genuinely as well, I'm a big Eagles fan. So it was just like,
That's
And-
really the only reason we let you stay.
and yeah, I know. They don't like us and we don't care.
Yeah, I'm looking at you,
Oh.
Steph. Your time
Um,
is short here.
And funnily enough, there we go.
Shut the fuck up.
What
that
on
happened?
earth was that?
We turned on a day baseball game on one of the tellies behind us over here.
There we go.
This one's fine.
There we go.
But
There's gonna be
so
a little
funny
cut
enough,
actually happening there.
the opening night of the Leek Street Passyunk,
Yes.
I was there, And then it transpired when I came in, it was just like, he's like, I recognize you from somewhere. And I'm in all of your photos from the opening because me and Tom built the massive PBR tower
I do remember
on the
this.
opening night.
Yeah, I remember you guys sitting there and I just came over every now and again, what, sweating my balls off, just like, oh, that's fucking cool, man. I'll get this for the Instagram and then go away and then I'll get
When we first opened, I had these guys down here in the Nick Foles bar that set their PBR cans up to be an exact replica of Stonehenge.
Incredible.
I mean, to a T, where they were bent even. It was perfect.
How many cans did you stack up that night? Do
It
you
was
remember?
a lot.
It was pretty big.
Were you doing Citywides or just the beer?
I'll get you
I
a
think
picture
just
stub that you
the
can
Or
put.
like
beer.
intermittent?
It
I'll
must
put
have
it
been like what? It was like at least 10 at the bottom.
Yeah,
so
there was
10,
a
9,
lot.
8, 7, 6.
Yeah, there was a
You
lot.
did-
Wow.
I can't do the
That's
maths.
It
impressive.
was fucking massive.
It was
Okay.
about 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
tell
pretty
me
good.
what I should be tasting in this.
So
now that we're having a rye.
you've had the corn whiskey.
Yeah.
So it's very corny.
It is.
Corn tastes like corn. We're all very corny here today. You take that and put it in the brand new barrel and you're getting all of those caramelized sugars, that molasses, maple syrup, demerara, that kind of thing, right? Rye is very, very different because corn is very upfront, very sweet. If you think of cornflakes, popcorn,
Yeah.
very, very sweet, right? Whereas rye is very, very, rye always gets described as spicy.
I was going to say this smells vanilla to me.
Okay.
Something about it. No,
That
snorting
was the
whiskey.
sound of someone
No, no,
snorting
no.
whiskey, ladies
I'm
and gentlemen.
doing it for the for all you ASMR freaks out there.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so Chris, this is a rye whiskey, but it's not like a straight rye whiskey. Is that correct? There are other things in the mash bill as well? Is that
There are
correct?
other,
Yeah,
yeah. So this
other
is,
grains. Yes.
So in the mash bill, if anyone's unfamiliar with the term mash bill, it's your recipe. Because once upon a time, you would have just written a bill of mash that you would have given to your farmer friend or whatever. And it would have been like 15 bushels of corn and 7 bushels of rye or whatever. So that becomes your mash bill, but it's just your recipe.
And it's still used now.
So this is 51% rye,
This Stubbs showing off with his whiskey knowledge.
51% rye,
I've dabbled.
35% corn, 14% malted barley.
Okay.
So it's kind of like just legally allowed to be called a rye because you have to have the majority grain rye to be able to call it a rye.
Right.
Same with bourbon. It has to be majority corn to be a bourbon.
Okay.
This is like way up at 78%. That's not even close. But
right.
this is so the thing that you tend to get with the more Kentucky style ryes is they do have more corn in them.
Yeah.
So this is down at 51. They tend to be in the region of like 51% to like 60, 65. Whereas the old Rittenhouse recipe would have been a lot higher.
Okay.
And ones today that are coming from around the country more, or Canada, they tend to be 90, 95%, 100% rye. But the thing with that corny, high corn level in there is you're still getting that sweetness as well, but you're getting all of that spice from that rye as well.
Definitely
So
spicy.
spice is always the flavor. I know spice isn't really a flavor, but it's always the way that rye is described.
Okay.
But it means it in both senses because you're going to get that kind of like more of a peppery heat than like a chili heat, but you're also getting that baking spice. So
Right.
caraway, cardamom, clove,
Yeah, cloves.
those
definitely.
kind of rich.
And Chris,
round
I asked you
kind of
about pointing
flavor.
that out because my friends my mates who don't think they like rye whiskey,
Mhm.
I will point them to the Rittenhouse quite often and say, okay, this is a great kind of starter rye. It's a proper rye,
Yeah.
and a proper whiskey, and proper for an abundance of cocktails that call for rye whiskey,
Mhm.
but kind of an entree for people who think they don't like rye
Yeah.
whiskey, even though it's bottled in bond and it sits at 50% ABV.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much considered like this, even long before I worked for this company, this was the rye. This is the rye that
This
I
is
always
always
drank.
what I drank, but it was probably
It's-
prominent in Philadelphia. Like once
Yeah.
I graduated from Jack Daniels and Jim B, you might needed to find something that actually an adult would drink. This is what I started.
I mean,
drinking.
going back to first whiskeys, like I only got into American whiskey when I started working at the Lexington. And that was probably the first time I drank any American whiskey that wasn't Jack Daniels.
Right.
But the one that I drank the most of in like my formative years would have been Rittenhouse. And genuinely, it was one of the other bartenders who worked there. We both started at the same time. If you got a staff drink And this was 50% ABV, and it was the same price.
Yeah, go for that one, man.
It was, you're getting more bourbon for your bourbon, baby. You're having more fun for more fun.
Well, let's drink
Because it was
drink
50%
I
and it's
got a
rich and
nerdy fact for you
flavorful.
guys.
I finished mine already.
Nerdy
Oh,
fact.
well, cheers.
Just pour me another one.
we
How
can
about
touch-
that?
Nerdy
Yeah.
fact about the
I was just about to say, we can touch you up, but I meant top you up.
Dude, you can touch me up anytime, man. I don't mind.
Oh, jeez.
Especially this.
I thought you
There
were
we
totally
go.
going to slap me around the head then for saying.
Shut up. So, nerdy fact about the Rittenhouse family for Philadelphia listeners. One of them was an astronomer, and he was actually the person that discovered the transition of Venus in front of the sun. And he had waited for years for this phenomenon to occur so he could log it. And he got so excited in the moment that he could have actually seen it that he blacked out. And he never did see
He was
it.
planning it for a year as well.
Maybe he just drank all the rye
Yeah.
ahead of time and then
Man,
blacked
that
out. Had nothing to
sucks.
do with getting excited.
But yeah, it was David Rittenhouse. So yeah, that's Rittenhouse Square
There you go.
in Philadelphia. Hence the diamond on
I
the bottle.
have
but
no nerdy facts about whiskey.
And
All right,
and
well,
he
then
also,
just drink your whiskey and shut
gosh,
But I don't feel as smart as you guys now.
I
This isn't
forget-
up. You're
fair.
wearing corn.
I forget
Yeah,
what the
fair
year
enough.
was. It was like 1783 or something. And he was also able to work out the distance of the sun from the earth by the plot of Venus. And he was basically bang on accurate.
Is he blind now?
I mean, he's
dead
quite
now.
dead
Oh.
now. Yeah.
That would have blinded you if you were looking at the sun for that long.
Yeah,
and
it
just
was-
going, it's a
240.
long way away.
Yeah, he's
So
actually
it's
still
still
with
be
us. He's 242 years old.
Hey,
He's,
he's good, doing well for his age.
yeah.
All
You know
right,
what I
so
mean?
I think to wrap this up, we should probably do a Philly tradition, which would be a
Pickleback.
pickleback. You are
Yeah.
dressed as a
Hence why it
pickleback.
finally makes
It
sense that I'm
finally
dressed as a
Well,
makes
first,
sense.
pickleback.
I wanna
It made
ask-
sense to me the whole
Well,
time.
first, actually, I want to ask because Chris, obviously, you've spent a lot of time with us, and as you said earlier, you are a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Yes.
Tell us how you became a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and what is your favorite sporting moment, as we were talking about the other day, that you remember. Your favorite sporting moment.
Sporting moment, full stop. Or, okay.
What do you think?
I
Or
think
Philadelphia Eagles,
to
maybe?
stay in Philly, let's go
Yeah.
with Philadelphia Eagles, brother.
Okay. Well, the story of why an Eagles fan is actually a little bit just kind of not boring, but it was when I was little. You used to be able to watch NFL on, I think it was on Channel 4 every Sunday.
Really?
Or something.
Okay.
And it was kind of that thing where, like, at school or whatever, it was just popular and so on and so forth. And it was kind of like, oh, you needed to have a team kind of thing, right?
Was it like super late night?
No,
kind
it
of
was
thing
on in the
where-
afternoon.
Oh, really?
It was only like a highlight show, but it was just like everything American when we were kids was huge, right? So WrestleMania, like everyone had like a Charlotte
Prince of
Hornets
Bel-Air.
jumper or
I had a Charlotte
or a
Hornets starter
Chicago
jacket.
Bulls kind of thing, right? And it was just for some reason
I don't even
everything
like
was huge,
basketball,
like
it's
the
like
wrestling,
Well, that's probably
music,
because of
Guns N'
Space Jam,
Roses,
right?
like everything, right? And it was kind of just that thing. It was like you need to pick a team,
Mm.
and they were green, and they had Eagles.
Sweet.
And that was cool. Also, in hindsight, I'm not entirely sure. I wouldn't have known it at the time, but like there was a guy at school I didn't really like, and he was a Cowboys fan.
Do you want to shout him out?
Do
Do you want to shout him out and call him a
Was his
buttnut?
name Stub?
No, his name was David. That's all I'm gonna say.
David, the
But,
Cowboys fan. You
But,
suck!
I may be completely
Sorry,
misremembering
Stubbs.
this,
Sorry,
but it was
Stubbs.
just
We love
like
you.
it's quite funny in that period of time. So like soccer wise, I'm an Arsenal fan, and one of the reasons why is because my sister was a Tottenham fan, and it was
So just
funny.
to be
Wow.
annoying.
Basically, I'm
Wait,
a really
how-
annoying person. Yeah.
So
That's great.
you've had a good few days then, haven't you?
See, I'll
Yeah,
jump in
that's
Not
here, Chris. What do
particularly.
we think of Tottenham?
Shit.
What do we think of shit?
Tottenham.
No.
Thank you.
That's all right.
And listen, when you come to Passyunk to hang out with us,
But no,
what is it that you like about Passyunk?
No, but if we're going to talk about sporting things, like
I was
Yeah,
we
put your
can't,
damn shots down, girl.
we can't not talk about the Super Bowl this year.
You and that corn.
We can't not talk about the Super Bowl this year.
Oh man, do we have to talk about the Super Bowl again?
Well, I had a good time at the Super Bowl, but like I mean, I was drunk for the
I'm
majority of it.
PTSD from it.
Really?
Still, yeah, I'm not ready to talk.
The whole thing is like, you know, Philadelphia is a very kind of like, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Yes.
So even when it was like fucking, I can't even remember the score. Even when it was like 40-0 or whatever the fucking
yeah, we
score
still
was,
thought
I was
we were gonna lose.
Pete, I was just still like, it's not over yet. It's not over yet. And there was the bit where they fucking soaked him in the Gatorade, and I was like, it's too early. You've just fucking jinxed it.
Yeah, you
Like,
jinxed it.
and then they scored like a touchdown. It was
Yeah.
like, fuck,
Well, here,
it's
that's perfect,
Kansas.
guys.
They're gonna do
Okay,
it.
yeah, let's
So-
do a shot. But I
And
want
let's say Go Birds.
Go
Go
Birds.
Birds.
Go Birds. Go Birds. Cheers, everybody. Cheers,
Cheers,
everybody.
cheers.
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 Everybody. Okay, here we
Take
go. Which one do I do first? I can't remember.
Whiskey.
I forgot. Well, listen, I want to keep on talking just because.
Because we're not supposed to anymore. And you like doing what you're not supposed
because
to
like
do?
there's still loads of things that I want to ask him. Like, you know, now we've gone through the whiskey stuff, but you talked about how you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan. You've talked about.
We're way over.
I don't care. We can go on for as long as we want. Who's going to stop us? Apart from Stubb, who's got the power of the button.
It'd be funny if this episode just ended.
Hey, it's fine. He's our first guest. This can be a little bit longer than usual. It's all good. I think this is really good. Let's keep on talking.
I love your concept of a little bit longer, Gaz.
Hey, man. Would you
Every
rather?
time.
Would you rather stop and?
I'm gonna change my favorite sporting thing. It's a tenuous link,
Okay.
but it's got to be the Philly Fanatic.
Just generally.
No,
His general
Dancing with
existence.
the Philly Fanatic and
Oh,
ending up
you?
on
Yeah.
ESPN.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I felt like a father making a child's dream come true when I went over and like introduced him to Fanatic, and he got
Here,
a picture
right?
of him.
When the Phillies
And I
were
took-
here last.
He was because he had the baby. You had the baby Fanatic.
Yeah, we had like.
Yeah.
Can we reach?
Yeah. So
We
we
had
got the
the-
baby. This is really funny. We
We had the
baby.
little version of this.
He
that
had a
was like,
tiny version
tiny,
of
tiny.
this, and Chris was just like standing there on the side of us going, "I really want to say hi, but I'm really embarrassed." Look at that.
Also,
And
I was
then-
also spectacularly hungover.
I'll have
'cause
to
we'd-
give you the video of this because I got the whole thing on video.
Oh, I have a feeling
And
we're inserting
the-
that video
and the
into
Fanatic-
this podcast.
The Fanatic not only went over, took the mini Fanatic away from Chris and just sort of did like a little skit with him. But
Oh, I
then
saw what was
threw,
happening.
Mini Fanatic away, went over and made out with him.
Awesome.
And he's still not called me.
I know.
But
All right.
And he loved
because
the
it was
beard as well.
because they were doing the American coverage showing the Phillies game over here, they were showing the coverage of what the Fanatic was getting up to. So like he made tea for the commentators and stuff like that, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was wearing. Like,
And that
the,
guy had the bat that was painted like
Yeah.
the Fanatic, and he got a home run as well with it, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And-
We
But-
didn't have time to watch that game.
Yeah.
But-
we were a little too.
But
busy.
you were on TV.
But they were
I saw you
showing
making
the
out with Fanatic.
coverage in America to be like, here's what the Fanatic's been up to, and they showed the footage of the Fanatic making out on
Amazing.
ESPN. Which obviously, like, I had people in America texting me being like, I've just seen you on
you know
TV.
What that proves more than anything?
What?
You don't choose the Yunk Life.
The Yunk Life.
The
Yes,
Yunk
it's
Life
you.
chooses you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks,
Chris.
Chris.
No
You're an
worries,
absolute
it's-
legend.
Thank you for having
I'm
me,
going
and
to
I hope
fall
you
up the
enjoyed it.
stairs now on the way
There we
out.
go.
Yes,
There we
thank
go.
you very much, everybody, for
Thank you for having
watching,
me.
for listening, for
Subscribe, follow.
subscribe, and if anyone wants to sponsor us because we don't have any, and if you want to, we kind of need it. No, we don't need you, but we want you. Give us your money. Come
All
on.
Especially when you make the producer work double time for an episode.
Yes, exactly.
You shut up and drink your whiskey.
Chris, this has been super cool, man, and thank you for coming on. We'd like to invite you back for another guest spot.
Thanks so
just
much.
you can- and it doesn't have to be about whiskey. It can just be about how there's lots of
Oh,
drunk
no.
stories that we
It
need
has
to
to
share.
be about whiskey.
Pod, it's that Yunk Life Pod. It's that Yunk Life Pod. That Yunk Life Pod. That Yunk Life Pod. That Yunk Life Pod. Living that Yunk Life, baby.
Can
No,
you come on?
it'd
Can
be
you
an
be a
honour.
guest for the hospitality one as well?
No.
Sorry, Chris.
Okay,
But you
good.
can stick
I'm
around.
going to smoke.
All right, okay, we gotta stop. Damn it! I wanted to keep talking. Are we still
I mean,
rolling
go
on the
for it. Here,
microphones?
here,
We're at a
Jesse's still
fucking
here.
hour. This camera overheated 3 times while we were recording.
There you go. Just pretend this guy's Jesse.